Good day, ladies and gentlemen. David Nair, all the way from down under Brisbane, Australia. David Nair on Air is a weekly telecast that we do from here, Brisbane, telecasted from Delhi. I sincerely thank the audience that is from across the globe. Some are from South Africa, UAE, Europe, UK, US, India in particular, and Southeast Asian countries, and obviously not forgetting Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for coming online, and would sincerely suggest if you do have any questions, do not hesitate to put it on the chat channel. And if you do miss that, you are welcome to send me an email on support@davidnair.net. That is davidnair.net. David Nair is a peak performance strategist, keynote speaker, and author of a book, Wired for Success. My ultimate purpose for bringing these shows online is primarily to create a mindset shift and a heart set shift, a soul set shift in 1 million people across the globe, primarily to lift their lifestyle and that of the next generation, thereby leaving behind a legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, this weekly broadcast has been initiated by a lot of my participants and followers who have asked for people to role model such that they could cut into their best cutting edge and performance. The role modeling concept of learning and development is key to any growth, and that's why I bring this every week. My team scout various parts of our network to see who are good to bring on board. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have none other than two fantastic speakers. Paul Segal is a person who was diagnosed 4 years ago with bone marrow cancer and given 1 year to live. I ask you that question. If you were given 1 year to live, what would you do? Now, he pulled himself up after going through a spiral downward plot. At the end of that week, he was able to crystallize a purpose, decided to live for his children. I have with me also his son, Raphael Segal. Welcome aboard, Paul and Raphael.
Hello, David. Thanks so
Hi,
much
Paul.
for having us on.
Very good to have you on board, Paul. Paul, before we go downstream, can I just ask you to share for a couple of minutes just your story of the journey you took as soon as you got this notice of having 1 year to live?
Yeah, sure. Well, it was a really big shock. I was by myself, and we'd been tracking a certain marker in my blood, but I didn't know what would happen. And then one day I was in the doctor's office, a very top, highly regarded professor and medical doctor, and he said to me, you better go and get a biopsy and a bone marrow scan, an MRI of your head, arms, legs. And so I did all the tests, and when I came back to him, he said to me, you've got multiple myeloma. And I was like, what's that mean? What is that? And he said, bone marrow cancer. So as soon as I heard that, I was just feeling completely shocked. I was emotional, had all these thoughts, feelings going through my body. And I was kind of almost shaking inside, and I was trying not to show too much in front of him. And I was almost bargaining, like, is there anything I can do? And he said, look, there's medical stuff, and he wanted me to go and see a professional at St. Vincent's Hospital and one of the really top people in Australia. And so we made a meeting with her. But to answer your question, I was really in shock. I mean, I guess there was other emotions like anger and sadness, but it was all just kind of lumped into one. And when I went downstairs to my car, I just started crying. It just sort of all poured out of me, and very emotional. And I had the thought, all is forgiven. And I don't know why I even thought that at the time, but it kind of came after the release of all this emotion. So very, very difficult time.
Right, right. That initial shock, obviously, you went to the doctor on your own. That initial shock that hit you, and you went through these emotions. Can you just share how did you cope with it? I know you cried, but more than that, breathing, walking down the car to the car, from there driving home. What was your next process? What went through your mind? I'm trying to crystallize that in my head.
I think the main thing I was thinking is who to tell, like what decisions to make.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, Daryl, he came with me to see the next specialist, and he was taking all these notes and asking questions, so that was helpful. And I think I told a couple of friends, and then the next big thing was telling my children, Raphael, who's here, and also Angelina, who was 3 years younger than him. They were 17 and 14 at the time. So I was quite emotional and a little bit nervous to tell them, but they were fantastic. I couldn't believe how good they were. They were laughing and making jokes and crying, and they were very honest and emotional. And I was asking them their opinion, what I should do, and a few other people, and they went off by themselves and had a long talk. And there was a lot of decisions made as well in a very short period of time. So just heaps going on, one thing after another. It's hyper, you know.
You're back online. Yeah, we lost you for a minute.
So, yeah, very stressful time. And then it was also exciting in a way, trying to work out what to do, how to progress, and then making decisions with the support of other people, especially Raphael and Angelina, on how to move forward.
Right. Raphael, if I can just pull you on here. When Dad mentioned to you about this, let's be transparent on this. How did you take that first message? What was the impact to you?
When he told me that he had cancer, I thought it was kind of like a joke or something. I didn't know how to react straight away to it, and didn't know the seriousness of it. Didn't really understand how something like that could possibly happen to someone so close to me.
Right.
So it was really a shock. And then once I realized it was true, I just started to think about it more and accept it. Although I always thought that he would be fine. And
yeah, you had the faith that he would be fine. That's what when I spoke to you previously too, you made mention of that. You had clarity on, okay, he's going to be fine. That's fine. It's going to be fine. That's what you kept saying to yourself. But inside of you, the pain was there. Right now, how did you cope with that?
I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly. I think I just tried not to think about it too much. Tried to just see it as something that
right. Now, coming back to you, Paul, on the question of you had to make decisions, you say. How did you put that? Did you have clarity to say, okay, I'm going to make this, or did you have to source some help?
Well, I asked the people closest to me, people I trusted, people I knew who were purely wanting the best for me. And again, especially Raphael and Angelina. And both of them were very strong, and a number of other friends were extremely strong in doing natural things and not doing too much on the medical side. So I kind of would have leaned that way anyway. And but having such strength on that from my children and other friends and even some family members, a few thought I should have gone the medical route, and I just also think that they had my best interest in mind as well. But it was much stronger on trying natural things first. So
Right.
I decided to do that. But I must say it was a difficult decision. Even my friend Daryl at one point said to me he was thinking of doing an intervention because he was there with me when it was all explained, and it was quite scary.
Right.
You know, I had anemia, I had calcium in the blood, I had a lot of pain in my ribs, I had a number of other things that were very serious. My kidney function was low. I was told these things wouldn't improve, and that, you know, maybe one day I'd be even walking down the street and some of my bones would break because it would get more brittle and more brittle. And it's probably one of the reasons I love going to the gym so much and doing a bit of weights, because I remember that I was told that, you know, my bones could break. So it's good to feel strong and work on the
Right. That decision of, okay, I'm going down the natural path, once that was made, and you've got a very good support structure, you know, that's helped a lot. What other decisions did you put in place also to say, okay, once this is happening, I want to do something else? Did you make up a bucket list? What were you going through?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things. One of my another close friend, Sam, he was helping me also. He was cooking soups and doing things to help me with my diet, and I became very strict on a lot of things, on my diet, supplements, and everything I was doing. But he said to me, look, if you try the natural things, and even if you get sicker and things go wrong, you could just take it that it's your time to die and go into the woods, go into the forest and become a monk or whatever you want. And it kind of freed me up, that level of acceptance. And then he also said at one point, why don't you write down a bucket list of everything you've ever wanted to do in life and do it all in a year? So if it happens that you die, at least you'll have done everything or most of the things that you ever wanted to do. And that I wrote down the list, and it was quite a long list, and I think I ended up doing everything, nearly everything on the list, and definitely all the important things. And probably one of the biggest practical decisions was to make a documentary with Raphael, because Raphael was into filmmaking, and he was looking for a path in life, and it was amazing that the timing, and I think he'd had some sense that something was going to happen before that. So I pitched him the idea of, what if you travel with me around the world to all the countries we want to go to and create a documentary on health and a family and a father-son relationship. And you got to remember, he was 17 and very much just starting out. So
How did you take to that, Raphael, when Dad was saying to you, hey, listen, you know, we could do this together. You had not done a documentary prior to that, and you decided to launch on this with your father. And what were some of the things that went through you to make this decision and say, okay, I'm going to work with Dad. I'm going to do this?
I just thought it was a unique opportunity. I always wanted to travel around the world, which was pretty cool.
Right.
And a good time to do it, because I never knew when else I could do that. And I just thought it'd be good to support him as well. And it was an interesting story, and definitely not something very well known around the world, which is alternative therapies. Still like extremely hidden and niche topic. So I think that's quite interesting.
And so just briefly outline, you had actually traveled with your dad, and you took snippets of the various forms of alternative therapy, plus the downward movement that was happening through your father and the upliftment that was happening in times. You had all of that capsuled. When do you plan to launch that documentary? I'm going to put you at a spot here.
Hopefully around September.
Fabulous. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Paul, we can get that in writing from him, okay?
Well, it's a unique position to be in. I trust him. I've decided to trust him completely with editing and the whole process. And he'd often film me maybe falling asleep or acting crazy and making stupid jokes. And so he's got a lot of material on me.
Right.
Use it. But he was phenomenal and, really grew as a person. And I love him so much. And just the different experiences we had, a lot of it wasn't related to health. Like there was a spiritual journey, emotional, him growing from being like a child to being more mature and a man, and just the whole period was extremely special.
Mm-hmm. And it's a huge benefit from your perspective to see, to be able to sort of not just show your son to grow, but actually walk with him on that journey. Now,
yeah,
that's powerful. Now, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, one of the things I think is funny is we got along really well, and there was only one time we had a really bad argument. And I used to joke with people because I had a lot of pain in my ribs.
Right.
And I'd say for a joke, like, punch me, come on, punch me in the cancer. And I was sitting next to him one time, and he was, for some reason, he was really angry and just punched me without it. I don't even think he was thinking of that, in the ribs. And it was pretty amazing.
And you went, ouch!
Got to be careful what I say and think.
Right. Be mindful of what you say, what comes out of your mouth, huh? Extremely cautious. Paul, moving on from there, you made the decision, you made a bucket list. Now, you did you have any chronological order in which you wanted to do the natural therapy? Was that advice to you, or you just took it as you went along with it?
Two separate people told me about this process called the Bruce Cancer Cure.
Right.
So I originally went straight off all sugars and processed, and I was just having like vegetables and vegetable soup. And then I went on to a 42-day Bruce Cancer Cure. The book's written by Hildy Hems. She also makes herbal teas. So I was sticking to having her herbal teas and also this Bruce Cancer Cure, which was a mix of different vegetable juices for 42 days. And it was a really interesting experience. I've never fasted nearly that long, and everybody was offering me food and joking about it, but it wasn't easy. And I've got this one picture when I finished it. I don't know, there it
That's
is.
better. Yeah, I can see that. Yep, you can see that.
Me
That's
having
your first meal. Is that your first meal after that detox? Is it? Is that your first meal? Right.
Yeah, my first meal was an avocado, and kids were taking photos and filming it. And the funny thing was that because I'd shaved my head and I'd lost a bit of weight, I looked quite thin. And I think people thought that was because of the cancer. But neither of those things were really directly caused by the cancer. So people would say to me a while later, once I was more healthy and put on a bit, my weight back, God, you look amazing. You look so much better. So it was nice in a way, but a lot of different things happened that were just amazing, that weren't connected. So first I did that for 42 days, and I had a blood test every so often. So I knew I was improving a little bit. And then Raphael and I went to Mexico, which was the next, I guess, a big thing on the journey. And we stayed in a healing place, a natural hospital in Tijuana. We were right on the beach. So the order kind of went one thing after another. So there, every day I was getting all these treatments of intravenous vitamin C, glutathione, oxygen chamber, enemas, special food, special water, just everything you can think of. Was very focused. Blood being taken out and put in oxygen and put back in. So it was a huge thing. And during the day, we had the beach on the opposite side of the road. And Raphael was going to the beach, and we were going out at night, having a few, made some really good friends, having some adventures. And it was kind of a balance all the time between treatments and yet also experience and life and trying to have fun and enjoy it as well.
Once you were going through this journey, how much of your focus was there on, okay, I've got to fix this? Or were you just thinking, okay, I'm going to take life as it is, and I'm going to live to the fullest and park aside this mindset of, okay, there is something in there that I got to fix?
I think I would say I was always aware of it, but I was also living. Like, it was very important to me that Raphael also had a good time and it was valuable. And my daughter also came. I was also trying to do the bucket list for them as well.
Right.
One of Raphael's countries was South Korea that he really wanted to go to.
Right.
And my daughter really wanted to go to England to watch the musicals on the West End. And she also wanted to go to Italy, so we traveled to, Rome, Vienna, and all those areas. And so it was both. Like, I had to do things for them, and we even did a course to do with real estate and money quickly, because I had to face the fact that I could die. I really had to take it seriously. And so part of what I wanted to do is things that would educate them, and if something happened to me, I thought at least they'll have a little bit of financial, at least they'll have heard the words and have some understanding of money as well.
Right. That's right. Raphael, whilst that was happening, you now were working on your documentary, but more than that, how are you coping? Were you conscious, okay, Dad's not well, I need to care for him, or were you gung-ho, I'm going to fly the world, man, mindset?
I was just in the moment the whole time. Just focused on whatever was happening at the time.
Okay.
Taking it step by step.
Mm-hmm.
And, I tried my best to add different elements of health and go to certain places, try new things.
Right.
Try new healing ways that we could in every country. So there was that relevance and just for the exploration of that.
Right.
But as I said, I tried to keep a positive attitude. There were a few times where I really thought about what he was going through and tried to put myself in his shoes and understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that it was not an easy situation and that you had to be quite strong mentally to keep that positivity, because he made it look quite easy, but it's not really easy when you have something.
Exactly. And that's, I didn't want to ask, I didn't want to use the term, the mental resilience that you had to cope with would have been far greater for a 17, 18-year-old compared to anybody else outside the scene. And I'm not wanting to compare it, but I just wanted to get you to share what was the strength in that mental resilience. What did you really have to do to bounce back? I mean, you had to be the barometer here, I gather.
I think I just tried to think that at least he was healthy enough to do a lot of things. And whenever I saw someone who was really suffering more physically, I just tried to think that it was good that he wasn't in that situation, going through that.
Right.
That would have been a lot harder. And more
How did you bring in your filming? Did you do your documentary filming while some of this was taking place, or did you have sections of it put aside for and explain to your dad, I'm going to do this, going to do that? Was it all impromptu?
Yeah, most of it. Yeah.
Okay.
You've done filming like over 3 years though. So.
Yeah, it's over 3 years, so there's a lot of editing work I'm sure you're going to go through. Good. Paul, coming back to you, in relation to following Mexico, where was the next country that you went into?
I think the next major trip was with Angelina. We went to the Philippines, we went to London, and then Italy. And each country was very different. I was also, part of it was relationships I wanted, and I had a girlfriend in the Philippines who was spent time with us as well, and she was a model, so we got to go to a few modeling events. And so there was always things. We'd go out to dinner. There was always different treatments as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we with Angelina went to the Lion King and a lot of Disney movies. The ABBA, Mamma Mia, Kinky Boots, all these things. So then in Italy, the kids went on the gondola and did all the things. We went to the Leaning Tower and all that. So everything that they wanted to do, we did. And then we also, of course, had a big trip to India and Nepal. That was just Raphael and I. And the other one, we went back to the Philippines a couple of times. Raphael had a girlfriend there as well, and we've got friends and good friends there. And India and Nepal were amazing. The India trip is phenomenal. And they were the big trips that we had, and each one just blew me away. Right. Even in Mexico, there was some amazing experiences Raphael had with ending up in a Mexico jail. Nothing he did wrong. And going to clubs at that age, and then the Philippines, he had a girlfriend or two, which was interesting.
Right. Cascading down from that, if I could look at the shift that took place from your lifestyle of being in Melbourne with kids and then doing this, do you think that shift contributed towards alleviating some of the stress, some of the concerns that you had? And if so, how did it come true with your count on your cancer?
Yeah, I think that goes back to some of the decisions that I made from the start or near the start. One was to only spend time with people that really love me or care about me so much. And I've got some extraordinarily close friends.
Right.
And, it's touching for me to even think of it. Very close family as well. And that was one of the big decisions. Just the decision to allow myself to do all these things that I wanted to do. Another one was not to over prepare, not to be thinking all the time. And I just had the habit of overthinking and planning, and I'd just get frustrated. So I gave up a lot of that. And it's like this interview and all the filming, the documentary is totally unscripted, never planned anything to say. Raphael just point the camera at me. Okay, Dad, tell me about how you're feeling, or tell me about this therapy that you're doing, or what's going on now? What do you want to do? And he'd just film it like straight without any preparation.
Right.
So that was another big decision. And I think that's why it's actually quite an emotional journey as well, because I realized, the thought patterns, your emotional patterns, your energy patterns, all those things that we often don't pay that much attention to has also contributed to the diagnosis and the creation of that situation. So as well as all the physical things of taking supplements, doing all those things, exercising, there's also the spiritual element of trying to create a spiritual connection of releasing what we call negative emotions, creating more positive feelings in life, diet, having a will to live, all these things. I came across like a list of things that most people do that have good recovery or even miraculous experiences, and things like changing a diet, taking herbal supplements. I think I actually know most of the things on that list just then. But all those things is something I still practice today, and I
Right.
still do about an hour a day of research on health. So
Right.
I guess what you're saying is that it's a lifestyle. It was decisions that have really impacted my whole will to live and my enjoyment of life.
Superimposed on that, obviously, is your purpose to live was your children. I mean, that came through from that, and that's why you even spent more with the kids subsequent to being diagnosed with the cancer.
We were always extremely close. I think, in a way, my daughter Angelina, she was extremely emotional, and that impacted me. She'd say stuff like, "Dad, I need you to live. I need you to be there when I get married or when I have children," and stuff like that. And I think that impacted me a lot. Maybe because she's a female, or it doesn't matter why, but she really got that emotion across to me. It's like she was crying at times. And I knew Raphael also felt, strongly for me, but he was more, explaining things and coming, the heart was definitely there with him, that's for sure.
Right.
Just different people have different ways of getting across. So, it took me a while, and eventually, I think I was towards the end of that first year, or maybe even longer. Maybe it was about a year and a half, and I finally said to Angelina, "Look, I promise you I'll live for 10 years." It's kind of funny, but I didn't want to say it.
Right.
And I knew it was for sure. And of course, anything can happen. But
Sure.
I got to the point where I felt that reality, that was like I could promise her that.
It's like you've conquered base camp 10 on your Mount Everest climb.
I think so. I always think it was a continual thing that never ends. That's why I like the name 1 Year to Live, because
Yes.
it always reminds me, like, what are you going to do this year? Can you improve this year? It's like some people said to me, "You did all your bucket list. You better be careful that you create more things that you want to do." And I think life kind of gives you more things as well,
Yeah.
You have to plan, but yeah.
Yeah, that's now driving into the releasing of your suppressed emotions. Okay, I'll come to you on that. Raphael, how did you cope with some of the releases that Dad was going through when he started talking about things that he wanted to do with you, and then you were coping with it in driving it with your sister when both of you went together? How did you cope with that? Were you mentally taking in and saying, "Okay, I'm totally responsible, I got to care for this and I got to do this," or were you coasting?
I was pretty happy that he was having that growth and changing as a person after going through such stressful situations in his life. It was quite good that he could express himself in new ways and be another different version of himself. So
right,
like that, he could do that and feel good about it.
Right, and you could see it from the camera lens perspective now as a third party too.
Yeah.
Right. Fabulous. Coming back, Paul, embracing the social support, understanding the release of your suppressed emotions, you now are journeying through with a change in diet to alternative markets where you are looking for treatment. What did you find that helped you the most in India? I think we are okay. We're back now.
Yeah. Yes, I was looking into a lot of different treatments. Naturopathy, another good friend of mine recommended a fantastic naturopath. I go to a kinesiologist. Just any network chiropractors I go to, I've got a very good one. Homeopathy. I tried a lot of different things, and I never relied on one. But I wasn't an expert myself. People often ask me for advice now, and I say I'm not a doctor, I'm not a naturopath, I'm not a practitioner in any way. I can just tell you things I've done, and I'm more aim, if I talk to people, is to inspire people. A lot of people say it's an amazing inspirational story. But yeah, all the different practitioners, some overseas, the treatment in Mexico was very valuable. And I've got to say, when I came back, my blood test was better, quite a bit better.
Wow.
And it kind of kept getting better. Some little things might have come down a little bit or not as good, but then there were always other things at the same time that have been improving. So diet, exercise, every single day. I went to this Qigong master, and he pressed all these points and he showed me 4 different exercises to do. And one was a special type of wall squat. And I've done it every single day since then. He told me that I had to exercise and do these things for 8 hours a day. And when I came back to him the second time, I said, I just got to be honest with you, I'd probably do it for 5 minutes if I'm lucky. And he was like, what? This is your life. This is like your work. You've got to do it 8 hours. But I worked out my own way of doing it that I felt made it very powerful. And I do like about 150 squats minimum every day. Particular ones to stretch out my lower back and build my security from the back and my strength. And it's a combination of a whole lot of different remedies and practitioners that have helped me, plus my own research. And even
a lot of this that you've put together in relation to the therapy, especially when I talk about Qigong, how did you know you had to put that combo together? Did you have somebody to guide you, or it is just a trial and error?
Maybe a little bit of luck, but
right.
I do believe in good fortune and luck, and I believe in it, so maybe that also helped create it as well. But this woman that went to the gym with me recommended the Qigong master, and he told me different exercises. And so when I go to the gym, I do maybe some of the normal heavier weights, and then between it I do certain types of squats and jumps and different things. And so I'm just mixing up one thing after another. And then for a little while I had a running coach, even though I'm definitely not a professional runner or anything. And she taught me certain things to do on the treadmill to keep my heart rate and to monitor my heart rate, which I think is pretty good as well. So I don't know. I think it was just step by step. And even now I find new things. Actually, speaking of India, I've recently started doing an Ayurveda session or two with somebody. So, yeah.
In India, which of the, without mentioning names, where did you head into the ashrams, and how much of help did you get from that to strengthen mentally and spiritually here? I know the physical exercise has been taken care of. Now, how did you strengthen your mind and your spirituality?
Yeah, well, I think that's an ongoing thing, especially with the emotions and the spiritual connection. But you asked about India. We had a connection already through my mother, who wanted us to go, and we did a World University Peace course on Mount Abu in Rajasthan.
Yes.
And it was an amazing place. It's one of the biggest spiritual universities around the world. And we met phenomenal singers and performers, and every day they did certain meditations. And so we started India there. And we had some phenomenal experiences in India with the travel. And we met an amazing guy, Zoe, that helped us just beyond belief. But it was happening in all the countries, but India, the people were so warm and loving and always giving us advice and taking us places. We ended up with Diwali at the end, the festival, which was phenomenal. And Raphael was really into the Hare Krishnas, and we spent about a week in their world headquarters in India. And my goodness, all the different spiritual aspects of the journey. But that was very special. The Hare Krishnas and the dancing and the chanting and the food is very interesting there.
Mm-hmm. Through India, you went into the Ganges.
Yeah, that's right.
Would you like to share that experience?
Yeah, well, in the Hare Krishna Center, we made a very good friend there. And he was taking us on things out of there. So he wanted us to teach a class in school.
Mm-hmm.
And he was teaching English as the second language for them, obviously. And so he got Raphael and I to go and to talk to them and answer all questions about Australia and the travels and what we were doing. And then he invited us to his house, and we saw how him and his wife and his children and the extended family all live. And we were dancing and singing and doing everything, and they made a beautiful meal for us. And then he said, all right, let's go to the Ganges one day. So we had to cross the river on a boat, and there was a lot of people, and everything is very bright and very colorful, and all the animals. And it's one of the things I love about India is all the animals in the street. But with the Ganges, it was a very special experience. And I was reading books to do with people who had traveled around India and in a spiritual way. And just to go in the Ganges and just kind of say some prayers there. And it's different than what I thought. But just the noise and people, and there was monkeys going all around nearby, and Raphael and I went in the water, and it felt very special. It did.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in India felt like that it was a special time and special things were happening.
Did you have a health regime in which you had, in India I'm talking about, a health spiritual regime that you walked through with someone, or did you do this all on your own?
Well, I was sticking with things from my naturopath in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
I never, because every so often I'd come back, do the blood test, get new things that she'd recommend. And so I was kind of on a continual thing with recommendations from practitioners and then my own research. Even when we were traveling, I was doing research and we were meeting different people. Like in India, there was a very good homeopath I went to that was recommended. And then the interesting thing is I also believed in the power of prayer and all the different religions and spiritualities. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people think I should have just picked one, but I used to get a lot of different groups praying for me, and
right,
of all different religions and different belief systems as well. And so everything was just unfolding, and whether it was the course related to the Brahma Kumaris or the Hare Krishnas or everywhere we went, we might go to different synagogues, different churches, different spiritual places, as well as the ones I've mentioned. And, I'd always be praying, asking, maybe begging sometimes, not just for myself, but for people close to me and anybody that needed help.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that was extremely touching was in Mexico, the other people that had cancer and all different types of cancer. And then one woman that I had been going out with in the Philippines had leukemia, which just was devastating to me. I was more worried about her than I actually was about myself for a lot of the time.
Right.
But to see some people, they're like the kindest, most loving people, and then, because they're there, they've got cancer and they share their stories, like I am. also looking at what's behind it, what emotions and different things, because I also did like work to do with understanding and emotional healing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So different things could hit us at different times, but even in India, after all that and the Hare Krishnas and everything, it was very emotional. And then going to Nepal and being in the Himalayas and experiencing, here's a picture of me meditating in the Himalayas.
Wow.
And, meeting people like this, going to different places, and just seeing how so many different people live, how they go about things, and different temples, different places. So in a way, nothing was planned, and it was really unfolding. Like when we went, we didn't know that Diwali was coming or where we'd end up. Or go to the pink city, the blue city, and you know India better than I do. But
the journey to Himalayas, did you get up to base camp 1 at least, or did you fly in?
I think we were at the base. Yeah, definitely didn't go near the top. I think we were only there for about 3-4 days.
Right.
And it took a lot to get there.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it was a little bit longer, and but each trek, was very different. Each experience was really impactful. The first time I went in by myself, and
right.
There was this river there, like a lake, and right in the middle of all these huge mountains, and the air feels different, the energy feels different. At one point we went on this whole track, and I was looking for stones, and I found some special stones for this friend of mine, Sonia.
Right.
And just different connections, different things, and sometimes you'd slip on the rocks. Different things felt dangerous, different things were exciting, and I was also worried for Raphael. Is he okay? How's he feeling? What's he going through?
Each of the therapies that you have used, did you have some form of a measurement as a marker to check against some of the vitals that you had to monitor how your cancer treatment / cancer vital signs were going?
Yeah, only the blood test.
Only the blood test. Okay.
Only when I was in Melbourne, and only when I did the blood test and got the results and got the feedback that I needed. I made a decision not to, even though I had to do the emotional stuff, psychological and everything, that I would trace things carefully through the blood tests rather than, I feel better one day, I feel worse another day, I'm good now. I went through all that stuff, and it was quite challenging. But in terms of the diagnosis, and still to this day, I get a blood test every 3 months, and that's the main thing that I work off to see how I'm going.
So using that as a measurement, as a tool that you're going to monitor yourself, you have, I know you're not a person that wants to put anything structured in a planned manner, but mentally you've got it geared that, okay, by such and such a time, end of this year, end of next year, I'm going to bring it down to this level.
Yeah, well, I've got a marker that's still been quite high. It's come down.
Right.
Okay, so to analyze it, at the end of that year, nearly all the symptoms had either were completely back to normal,
right,
or were very close.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were close, it means they'd improved. So like my kidney function had improved quite a bit, and it's come back to pretty much normal now. But what I'm saying is all the symptoms reversed within that year, and pretty much right.
Within the first year?
Yeah. So instead of dying, that was what happened. Plus going to, 7 countries and different places in Australia, and all the meeting the people. And but the marker called kappa-free light chains is something I still work on. as
Right.
part of my health to bring that down.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctors still say, well, it's very high. You know, do you want to do this? Will you consider something? And, you know, they still think anything could happen. But that's good.
And that kappa that you use as a measuring tool, or that the doctors use as a measuring tool, do they give you elements to go back and rework? Like in a gym, you go back and you have to do this, 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 and you're regimented into doing that?
Well, the doctors always said they didn't know what caused the situation, and they didn't know what I could do to fix it.
Right.
And then when there was a diagnosis, they had the medical suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that the whole medical industry has been very helpful, especially with the blood tests and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they're not the ones that tell me what I should be doing or how to heal it naturally.
On the whole, now you take yourself out of the situation. On reflection, looking at what you did, where would you put your main trust that provided you with a significant cure or a drop in the kappa count?
Gee, that's hard.
I know it's hard. I meant to do this.
One of the psychological things that I came across was the idea that bone marrow cancer related to people who've lost their place in life.
Right.
And I'd gone through divorce. I'd no longer in the house that we lived in for about 17 years. I'd gone through a number of moving houses, a number of other things that people say, you know, on the list of the most stressful things.
Right.
So I think that working out stuff within myself, but I am a huge believer in supplements and giving yourself the nutrition you need and everything on the list. But to be honest, I'd have to say Raphael and Angelina was the most important things to me. But, you know, I'm not just saying it because I think it's a good thing to say. The journey with them, and especially in that period, Raphael, the travel and creating the documentary and just the experience of it was, I think, was massive for helping me as well.
Right. So the attribute that you give towards the methodologies you've used to suppress that emotion that you had and then got it out through the travels and all of that. And obviously with the kindled love, both the children that was there enriched the purpose that you were driving for. Originally, you were purposeless after going through a lot of the challenge and divorce and house loss and all of that. You then found a purpose. Now, with that, do you feel that you are a self-conquered person who would like to now live for another 10, 15, 20 years, which I think you would?
You know, sometimes I imagine playing tennis on my 80th birthday or 90th birthday, maybe even my 100th.
Yeah, keep at it.
I imagine that thing. One of my best friends, Robert, and I play tennis with each other every so often. Not as much as we used to, but we want to get back to it. So that's one of the things I imagine on these birthday celebrations of playing tennis or something like that. But yeah, you know, seeing my kids growing older and enjoying their lives. And looking forward to the documentary coming out and sharing lots of good occasions with my family and friends. And
that's really good. Yeah, plus the book that you're writing to launch all of this.
Yeah. Look, ultimately, I believe that our true self is love.
Exactly.
So it was kind of revealed to me in a vision that I am love. And if I am, then everybody else is as well. It's not.
Exactly.
So I try and bring myself back to that, like what's real, what's important, what can I do? Because I feel like I've been lucky to do so many things myself that I wanted to do. And I feel like, well, now maybe the next part of my life, to whatever degree, is to help other people maybe even more as a focus as well.
Right, right. Fabulous. Paul, where from here?
Well, as Rafa said, we hopefully have the documentary coming out this year.
Yep.
And just spending more time with my family and friends. Hopefully one day I'll get a book written. I don't know, I've always been open to the media, to travel. I love to travel. I've got a lot of friends in different countries that I'd love to see again. And so there's a lot to do. I hope one.
We've got a momentary.
See if that holds.
Could you repeat that again? We lost you for a second there.
Yeah, just all the things that I hope to do, like finish a book, get the documentary out, help people any way I can. One day be more involved in healing. It's a dream, maybe it's a fantasy that one day I'll be able to help heal people. And spend more time, travel. I've got a lot of friends in different countries, and spend time with my family and friends.
Sure. Paul, pulling all of this in, what could you, in probably a minute or two, share with the audience your experience of what you think was the most important thing to give you that purpose and to make you fight to live?
I think, again, it comes back to my children, but I had to work on that will to live. I had to see where I was not so strong in it. And there was a statement, as long as you decrease your death urges while increasing your life urges, you can go on living in better health. That's very roughly paraphrasing it. But so the idea of looking at all those things, negative thoughts, emotions, not that there's anything wrong with them, but not to hold on to them for too long and to release them. And that spiritual connection, I think, that belief in some spiritual thing, whatever you call it, unconditional love or divinity, God, and finding a way to be present to that at times as much as possible.
Right, right. Paul, I sincerely thank you for being so transparent and open in your journey and sharing it with the audience. And hopefully it'll help, and I'm sure it will help impact some people to reorientate their thinking, to say what's important in life, how to live the moment at the most, and how to give back in the form of love, rather than carry grudge or hatred with amongst people, which, there's a lot in the community out there. But I sincerely thank you for your sharing your story, and Raphael for being part of it in the initial stage for the journey he had put through with you. It's unfortunate we don't have Angelina here, but one day in the future we could, when the three of you
Maybe
after
the 10th anniversary.
yes, that'll be a good one. So sincere thank you again, and all the best in the journey. Take
Thanks so
care,
much,
and
David.
appreciate your help. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.